Hi, my name's Mark. I wanted to make this video for a while. I am currently 32, and I'm living on my own with my wife. And I wanted to share this story about my abuse that I've experienced my whole life from certain people. And I want it to be more of an empowerment story than a pity me story. I want people to be able to watch this and be like, you know what, things can be okay. My mom married this guy Bob when I was 4. He is the father of my brother and sister, and this all started pretty young. When I was 4, I went on like this career day thing with him, and it was really early in the morning. We stopped at a place not too far from one of the schools I attended, and Bob got out of the car, told me just to hang on, just don't get out of the car, kind of thing. I was a very rambunctious kid that had a lot of energy, so I ended up getting out of the car and being introduced to his friend Tito. I eventually told my mom about this like a year or two later. Found out that this friend was Bob's drug dealer, and he thought it was okay to take me on this drug pickup. I don't know for what drug. Don't know if it was weed, coke. I know that he was into more serious things that cost more money. I don't know what it was. I never actually saw the drug. All I know is that my mom told me that this was a drug deal later on in my life when we had conversations. This a couple of years later, when I was 6, maybe even 7, we were living at this place called Klondike, and my mom came up to me angry, and she had a little dime bag, nickel bag, something like that. And Bob told her that it was from one of my toys that I got, and I'd never seen a little baggie that size, like a Ziploc baggie that size before. And I told her that's absolutely not from one of my toys. I don't know what that is. So this person, an adult, wanted to blame kids on just hiding everything. I am half deaf, and my mom used to have to take me to the hospital every Tuesday and Thursday for my ear. We were going through reproductive surgeries and stuff like that. I remember having like a diaper on my head and waking up vomiting and being having to lay down for 2 weeks. And my mom had to change this diaper on my head that would be bloody and stuff like that. They had to completely open up my ear. To this day, I still don't have hearing in my left ear, which is nothing of abuse from anyone other than I was just born like this. But my mom decided when I was 7 or 8 that she wanted to talk to me about going to the doctors. And the way I remember her phrasing it being like, first we were going to the doctors, and there was several surgeries that had to be redone because the doctor, or rescheduled because the doctor wasn't there. He was on vacation. They weren't able to reach out to us. Whatever. This was the 90s, and it was not as fluent or fluid as what's going on now. Even now, it's hard to get a reasonable thing from the doctor or response from the doctor when they mess up. So my mom came up to me and presented this proposal saying, hey, aren't you tired of going to the doctor every 2 weeks or every 2 days out of the week? Aren't you tired of getting tubes put in your ears, and aren't you tired of the surgeries? And aren't you like, do you really want to go through surgery where they're going to cut open your ear? You're going to have to go to sleep. You're going to wake up vomiting. You're going to be having to be laying down for 2 weeks. And as a 8-year old, that terrified me. Wait, they cut open my head. I didn't. I was like, no, let's forget this. I don't want to do this anymore. So at 8, my mom presented me this crazy proposal saying, hey, you know what? You don't need to worry about your ear. So as any kid would do, be like, yeah, I don't want to be cut open anymore. Forget this. I don't need my hearing. Not understanding the ramifications of what I did. I'm 32 now, and I still don't have hearing in my left ear. I think at this point, I'm not gonna go and get reconstructive surgery or anything like that. I think I've just gonna live with it. We moved back into my grandparents' house. I was living in my grandparents' house when my mom married this guy, Bob. There was no real abuse from the time we lived at our own apartments. But when we went back to my grandfather's house, was where I lived before my mom met Bob, he didn't come for a little while, and my uncle Greg was living there. I think it was because of the tensions between him and Greg. They were not like, we can't do this. They'd never really liked each other. They were both drug addicts on different levels, different things. My uncle Greg was a heroin addict, but he lived there. He liked cartoons, like the X-Men cartoon, and several times I was like, "Hey, can I come watch cartoons in the living room?" He would do his stuff, his daily routine in the living room, but he would lock the doors from us. We weren't allowed to use the TV in the living room. There was a couple times where I was like, "Hey, can I watch TV in the living room?" And he was like, "Sure." He would be like, "I need a couple minutes, clean up or whatever." And then I'd come watch TV with him. X-Men was on around like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He liked X-Men, I liked X-Men. So I used to sit there with him. There was times where he would get really close to me, want me to sit like basically on his lap, and put his hands on my laps and stuff like that. Soon after that, he started demanding that when he leaves the house, I kiss him goodbye. And it would be these open mouth kisses. That's very, I feel very dirty about it and kind of disgusted. Um, he was a messed up person, and he wasn't around the house for much longer. He went through his own cycle of rehabs, and he ended up getting married and moving out. And it was only a couple times that this happened, but it didn't really bother me until a couple of years ago when I kind of like rethought of it and had to reintroduce it into my brain kind of thing. And I was like disgusted for a long time. I pushed it away, and I eventually accepted what happened to me. Soon after Greg left, Bob moved into my grandfather's house, and once he moved into the house, he fell into a very deep depression. He When I would have to walk past him in the hallways if no one was around, he would push me against the wall, kind of like how hockey players check the other players against the wall, and he'd be like, "Get out of the way! You're in the way!" Kind of like just kind of joking around. But I was like 8, and he was a big guy. He's 6 foot or something like that. I don't really remember. And we would get into verbal altercations at times, and my mom took his side more than not. He would call me a homo, other choice words for homosexual, a pansy, because I listened to Radio Disney. I liked Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. I liked Britney Spears. And he picked on me for the things that I liked at the time, and I was terrified to tell my family about what happened with my Uncle Greg, about him kissing me on the mouth, because I already was getting bullied and called these things, and I thought that being that way was a horrible thing, and I was terrified of it. I don't think that way now. I haven't thought that way since I was a kid. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And I realized that that wasn't my fault. So I never really told anyone until a couple of years ago. I told my mom and my family what was going on, and I've learned to kind of move on from that. But my mom allowed Bob to continue being a bully to me. When I started being a preteen, I started standing up for myself, and this man would argue with me, and I'd be like, "You're a crackhead. You're a piece of shit." And he would give it back to me, be like, "Yeah, I was a crackhead, but you know what? Your dad didn't even want you. That's why he left when you were a child. Your mom doesn't want you. You're just a nuisance." He would tell my brother that he's the only thing that matters in my parents' lives at the time. And I overheard these things. He did this in front of me, and for me to hear these things when I'm already have a different name than everyone in my family, and then my brother's a Simmons, my mom's a Simmons, my other family is Cruises, and I'm a Dowling. I'm the only one in my family that's a Dowling, and I already felt isolated my whole life. I felt very alone, just for that reason. I just felt different than everyone. Um, so I started standing up for myself, and sooner than later, there's Bob had his problems always, and he had these loan sharks come by before he kind of left for good. There was these like Italian people that would come by, two or three people at a time, and he would have me answer the door. And they would always ask, "Oh, it's Bob here? Is Bob here?" I always had to say no, even if he was there. I'd tell him he doesn't live here anymore. My parents are getting split up or whatever, and or I'd say my mom's leaving him. I never told him that I was their kid, but I knew that these were not good people, and he owed money to people for drugs or whatever he was doing. I don't know the full story. All I know is that they came to my grandfather's house where I lived, where my brother lived, my mom, and they were looking for this man because they wanted to hurt him. Um, Eventually, he left that house. He got in trouble and was locked up. Um, I've told my mom this story several times about him calling me these names and pushing me around from the time I was 7 to 13. We eventually moved away to upstate New York from the city. And my grandfather bought a house. He moved in with us. Well, he moved because he sold the house in the city. And my mom started manipulating things to kind of get grandpa out of the house. She told me originally that he's buying this house for us. This is going to be our home, and he's going to move out. Within 2 years, I think my mom got tired of my grandfather's complaining. I admit that I am not an easy person. I definitely wasn't easy as a kid or as a teenager. That's for sure. My mom got a dog against my grandfather's will, and yeah, sooner or later he moved out within 2 years. But my mom always told me that was always the plan, so I didn't know that there was a problem there. I was always told that Grandpa got this house for us. He planned on moving to Jersey into like a retirement community, so I didn't know what was going on. I just thought that was the plan all along. I was working at my Aunt Mandy's toy store for a little while, and my Aunt Emily eventually realized that something's going on, and I remember that we had this sit down where we sat in her Dodge Neon, and I don't remember where we were, but she wanted to talk to me. I was getting more and more agitated and violent, and I told her about all these things that happened with Bob, and we started crying, and it felt like someone finally listened to me, and she always promised that if he ever came back in our lives, that she would fuck him up for me. Excuse my language. And that was that. He wasn't around for much longer after that. He wasn't like released from jail until, or wherever he was, until I was an adult. And by that time, he was a frail old man with a cane. And I always thought that when I see him again, it's time. I'm gonna stand up for myself fully. But by the time I saw him again, it would be picking on like an old man, and it wasn't worth it to me. But the it was when we moved upstate. and my grandpa left, it was more or less the abuse went from that to my mom, where she would demand things from me, and I was her babysitter for my sister. I took care of my sister, our pretty much our whole lives, and I didn't. I just felt she always told me that that was my role, that I'm the oldest, so I need to take care of her. My mom works at the postal service, where she was working from 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 11 o'clock at night, and sometimes overnights. Once we moved, she started having to work overnights, and there it was just not fair for me at 16 to have to take care of this baby, and it I take I don't think, looking back, I did what I had to do, and I did take care of my sister, and I don't blame her. Obviously, I don't blame. I felt like I was doing what I needed to do for my sister. It wasn't for my mom. But then started rebelling against my mom, saying this is crap. This is bullshit. I don't. I'm not this child's father. Um, she stopped me from taking trips with my grandfather, and because I needed to take care of my sister, and all these other things. When there was family around that could have done it, she started being like, when we started arguing, she started spitting in my face and like slapping me and pushing me, and I don't think I ever deserved that. Yes, I'm very loud. I'm bipolar. I have anxiety. I have depression, and when I get mad, I can be very scary. I understand this, but I've never I don't think I ever did anything where I deserve to be spit in my face. There was name calling, but that's as far as it usually went. Um, I ended up having a stroke in 2011, and my father came back into my life. I wanted to try to have a relationship with him. After a couple weeks after my stroke, I'm back home. I'm doing okay, and I find out that my mom has been skipping work and sneaking around with my father, who was married, and she all she ever had to say to me was, we weren't having sex. And that wasn't why what I ever asked her. It was, we weren't having sex. I asked her, how could you uh, forgive this person who never paid into child support, never cared to find me, never cared to help, and I get a stroke, you bat your eyes at him, and all of a sudden you guys can work things out and be best friends. I inside I believe that there's things going on, because he was married and he was at work, and I know he cheated on his wife. He took me to his mistress's store one time. He bought things for my mom all the time, and it ended because I was like, this needs to stop. Like, this isn't right for me. You're screwing with me. You're screwing with my mind. I wanted to have a relationship with him, and it just it and I the relationship on all ends ended because I couldn't do it. I ended up moving to Staten Island again when I was going to college, and I things didn't work out the way that me and my now wife expected. We had to move back. We moved in with my mom. When we moved back in with my mom, we were only gone for 4 months, and the state of the house when we moved back was completely trashed. She dated a person for a couple of years that moved in with us, who was a racist, and he pulled out the heater and never placed it before he left. My mom has a history of dating disgusting men. I have a good friend who is black, one of my best friends, and I remember one time we're being teenagers in the basement, hanging out. Her room was above us, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever. And he came down, and there was like 6 of us, and he didn't say anything to any of us other than my one black friend, and he said, you know, my family tree has people like you hanging from it. And I think that was the first time I saw real hatred for someone that is just a different skin. Like everyone else is white. He didn't come to me and be like, "Yo, what are you doing? Be quiet." He came down and then he said that right to Warren. I'm sorry, I don't my buddy, and it that's when I started arguing with him. I lost respect for him, and then sooner or later, he left my mom also. Just one day, packed up and dipped. So when I came back from school, me and my wife found my mom's house completely trashed, cat shit. My mom had like 14 cats, cat shit everywhere. But it was caked on the floor behind the TV. I ended up writing a message to my aunts and uncle and being like, I don't know what to do. Jillian's been living in this hellhole for how long? I didn't know what to really say. My brother was at school. We ended up cleaning it up, and now I realize that my aunts and they did something because my sister wasn't around during summer anymore. She was going between houses, and I see that now, and I'm very grateful. I don't know if it was because of what I wrote or if it was because they had daughters of their own that was really close to my sister, and I thank you to my aunts and uncles. It means more to me than you know. Um, so, post stroke, I'm living with my mom. My brother comes back home, and from college, and we moved down to the basement that floods all the time. We eventually had no heat in the house. The stove wasn't working anymore. We had a basement that flooded all the time, and then my family also my brother and me, my mom and me, were very headbutting, and so there was one time the toilet blew up. I'm in the basement with my wife, my girlfriend at the time, my wife, and the toilet just started overflowing in the basement, and my mom didn't care. She I didn't know what to do. I was 23, 24, I think 24, maybe 25 even. And I'm like, what do we do? And me and my mom were in a fight. Me and my brother were in a fight. Not a lot of people were talking in the house, and my mom didn't care because it didn't have anything to do with her at that point. That's where you're staying. But you don't care that your son is literally seeing feces overflow from the toilet downstairs. You don't think that that's not ruining the house in a way. Eventually, like a week or two later, we got a plumber there. Me and my brother split the bill. I gave him a couple $100s. I don't know what the bill was. I just left it on his nightstand, or his dresser or something like that. And this is the person my mom is. And people that she dates, she's always put people that she was dating before me, and she always made me feel like I was her workhorse, just for my sister, which it wasn't fair to me. But I'm glad that I was there for my sister when if I wasn't there, I don't know who would been there. Now, the reason this has all come up was because my mom threw me into a memorial post on Facebook, and I told her, I was like, I don't want anything to do with Bob. He was abusive. I go through this with her every year around the same time, and this year I just asked her to take me out of the post, and she did. And I went to my brother and sister, and I was like, this is the truth. Your father abused me. I don't like seeing these posts about your father. I understand he's your father and he was good to you. He never did anything to you. I was treated differently. I know I was treated differently. And we got into a big fight. And then that's when I brought up my fourth grade. In fourth grade, I was homeschooled. Right after my grandma passed away. And so it was just me and my mom. We would do work in the middle of the morning. And then I would be up all night eventually. And it turned into like work in the morning, and then it was a normal for a couple of weeks where I was working and stuff, and then the days got later. My brother was in kindergarten, and so we put him on the bus. She would let me sleep till like noon. We'd do a couple hours of schoolwork. I was up till 2 or 3 in the morning with her, and I was in the fourth grade. I'd be watching All in the Family, and this is when Will Ferrell was on SNL. We watched SNL every weekend, and but there was times that it was me and my mom alone at night, and this didn't happen all the time, but it happened often enough where my mom had me massage her without a shirt on. There was times where I unclipped her bra for her. I was 10, 11 maybe, and this is the problem I'm having. I brought this up to her, and she started calling me sick. She started calling me crazy. I'm bipolar type 2. I have anxiety, severe depression, and I agree. I am sick, and I understand, but I don't I didn't I just don't understand why she thinks that this was okay for her 10-year-old son to be in the sexual position with her. And I just wanted an apology. I just wanted acknowledgement, being like, I didn't think of it. Grandma just passed away. I wasn't in the right mind. But here we are, and she can't even admit it to me. And I just want an apology. So when I brought this up to her, she started using my brother and sister against me, saying that if I ever brought that up, that she would make sure that my brother and sister wouldn't talk to me anymore. That they're not going to love me, and all these things. And I'm just like, I'm tired of her saying that to me. I'm tired of her putting fear in me to kind of motivate me to do different things and not to open up about what was going on in my life. There was a lot of good times with my mom and my stepfather, but these are the things that I remember mostly because I don't have any answers for them. I don't have an apology. My mom tells me I think things wrong. I don't remember things correctly, but I know these things. I could feel them. I still remember them. I still have nightmares about them. So yeah, that's my story. I want to make this video because there's not enough men out there talking about these things and bringing these things up. Abuse is a big thing, especially within families. I applaud anyone that was able to move on with their life. I now live in a beautiful home. We have an apartment right now. We're trying to have a baby. Me and my wife just got married. And I know I'm not perfect. I've made my own mistakes. And that I just feel like I deserve an answer to why these things are the way they are. And I'm tired of begging and crying to my mom, saying, please, please help me. For years I was saying, I don't think my head's right. I don't think I think right. Now I've been on seeing a psychiatrist for over a year. Yeah, I'm bipolar type 2. My mom had a problem with taking me to the doctors often. I remember one time that my ear was bleeding, my good ear. I'm deaf in my left ear. And she didn't care. She didn't care. I literally had a fight with her, being like, this is my good ear. This is my only ear. Take me to the doctors. I think I threatened to smash her windshields, honestly, because I was terrified. I thought that I was going to lose my other ear. I didn't want to be deaf. And she had to work at night. I was 18 or 19. I was an adult, but I was on her insurance. I never went to the doctors by myself. I didn't know. And eventually she got in the car and took me down the street. But on the way to the doctors, she was complaining about how she's going to be tired at work, and she's going like, this is going to be my fault, and that it's not a big deal. There's blood coming from my ear, Ma. I don't know why. So if you see this and you have this type of relationship with your family, there's ways out of it. I've been suicidal for a long time. I'm getting help. you could get help. There's a lot of ways. There's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of people that will listen. There's people that will care about you that you don't even know will care about you. I have more friends on Facebook that I've never met now that I can go to and just talk to. I have a wonderful wife that if I have an anxiety attack at night, I can wake up. There's people that you can reach out to. So please, if you have some kind of abusive relationship, don't do something drastic. To try to help yourself. Thank you for listening.